Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dave at Very Friendly Studios, and today we're going to be talking about Mixbus processing. So this is Fast Friends. It's a video series we're doing to share some of the things that I've learned about engineering and mixing while we build out our new studio space here in Brooklyn. So Mixbus processing for today. First, let's talk about the point of Mixbus processing. The point of Mixbus processing is not to fix the song. So if you're arriving at Mixbus processing and hoping that you're going to throw ozone plugins on your mix bus and that's going to make the song that doesn't sound good yet sound good, I would say go back and work on your tracks. Focus on editing the tracks, maybe re-recording the tracks, and certainly processing the tracks until you're happy with what you have heading into the mix bus. So we have a Logic project pulled up here. I'm working on a song, and what I'm going to do is play a snippet of the song, and then piece by piece, we're going to build the mix bus. And my philosophy on the mix bus is that everything you add to the mix bus should be adding a couple incremental percentage points to the quality of the song. Nothing dramatic, nothing extreme, just something that's going to take that demo sound that you have heading into the mix bus and turn it into something that sounds professional. So here's the song I'm working on with no mix bus processing. Okay, I think right now it sounds like a perfectly serviceable demo. Now let's level it up with the Mixbus. So Mixbus plugin number one is always general EQ for me. I like Pro Q3 for this. I'm gonna reset my Pro Q3. Now I'm gonna hit play and just work on this EQ a little bit, and then we'll do an A/B test at the end. So I'm gonna cut out low end rumble with a low pass. I'm gonna see if we need to do anything about muddiness. I'm going to listen for a resonant frequency in the 600 or 700 hertz range, and then focus on harshness at the top end. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Low pass around 25. A little bit of tubbiness there. I'm going to do a dynamic dip so that I'm not changing the chug. Okay, let's see if we have a resonant frequency here. I think we do. Notch that out. Now let's look for harshness. Definitely don't want that. Sometimes I'll do a little boost in the 1700, 2500 hertz range just to make sure that I'm not losing any bite when I do this dip around 4000. So let's sweep around and see if we need that here. I like what that's doing there. So that's the first stage of EQ. Next, plugin number two, I'm going to add Soothe 2. If you're not familiar with Soothe 2, this is an amazing plugin, and basically what it's going to do is just automatically take out frequencies that it defines as harsh or unpleasing. And I'm guessing there's going to be some tubbiness in the 90 to 120 hertz range and maybe some harshness around here. So let's play with these. As you see the dark blue dipping, those are the frequencies that Soothe 2 is taking out. And I don't want to be overly aggressive here. So let's look at the harshness first. Okay, I'm okay with that. This is what it's taking out, by the way. Let's give a listen. Okay, that feels right to me. Now let's go look at the muddiness. Yeah, so you can see here at around 90 hertz, it's saying that we should be taking a ton out there. It's going down like 6 decibels. I like to be gentle with this. I don't want to lose the chug that I'm getting from the guitar, so I'm probably going to put it here. There we go, just enough clarity. So let's hit plugin number 3. We're still doing EQ, believe it or not. And all I want to do with this, it's Mag EQ4. This is the only thing that I use this plugin for, and that's adding an air shelf to create some sparkle at the top of this song. I basically do it the same every time. I'm setting the frequency range to 10,000 hertz, and I'm just going to boost it by 1 decibel. So let's hear that with no air shelf, and then I'll turn it on, and you can hear the difference. Yeah, and it's just adding a little bit of sparkle, like I said at the top end. Nothing dramatic. We've gone through 3 plugins, and I think none of them are doing anything dramatic. But let's turn them all off and then turn them all back on, and you'll hear that they really do add up. So here they are with no EQ, and then I'm going to engage all 3, and you'll hear the difference. So to my ear, that's starting to take on a more professional sound. So let's jump over to plugin number 4. Let me reset this here. Where is my default? That's weird. Let's start there. Okay, so now I'm working on multi-band compression. And the point of this is I don't want to compress the Mixbus very heavily at all. I don't want it pumping. I don't want it to be a brick. I want to hear breath and movement. But there's going to be a couple areas where occasionally a spike will pop out. And the point of multi-band compression is just to tame those spikes without changing the overall character of the song. So let's hit play. And I'm usually going to throw one of these somewhere around here for muddiness and somewhere around here for harshness, similar to the plugins we've already used. Okay, so we're further taming that resonance. I like to make the attack not super snappy and the release relatively quick because, again, we don't want to be changing the character of the song. So let's add another one of these and see if we need to take out some of the harshness here. That feels right. I'm getting a little mud. Let's see if adding a third is going to help with that. So you're only really hearing it on the palm mutes. And what you really want to do with all of these is dial them with the threshold so that you're not really taking out much more than 1 decibel of gain, absolute max of 3. I like to be very gentle. And you'll be able to hear here that the chug is not going to jump out quite as much with this band being compressed. Right there. See, we're jumping just about 1 decibel when that palm mute comes in. That's going to help control those dynamics. So plugin number 5, I don't always use this one, but I do just want to share it because it's really cool. This is called Basement, and this is for low-end processing. I don't know if this was even designed for the Mixbus, but I find that it works quite well. I'm always going to have this on saturate mode. It's using harmonic saturation to create better separation and better glue in the low end between your kick drum, your bass, maybe the lower part of your guitars. And I like to be very gentle with this. I don't totally understand how it works, but I know that turning up strength to the right level glues everything together. If you're thin on the low end, you can boost with a shelf down there. I usually don't. And if you really are, hearing a lack of clarity on the high end because you have such a big low end, but you don't want to lose your low end, you can dial clarity to help improve that. So I'm just going to dial this in. We'll start with strength. And the way I dial these is I go to a point where it's obviously too much, and then I just pull it back until it feels right. So if I was looking for like a modern metal sound, I'd probably have it right here. You can hear that thick, meaty low end. I'm not really though here. I like this to be a little more kind of modern black metal-y, so I'm going to pull it down. That feels right to me. Clarity sounds fine, but I'll just show you what this does. Why not? A couple percent. So that's taken us through EQ1, EQ2 with Soothe, EQ3 with Mag for the air shelf, some multi-band compression, and a little saturation. The next thing I'm going to throw in here is Goldfuss. I learned this one from watching the Nail Mix with Dave Otero. And what this does, it's kind of like Soothe, but it does it in a way that is a little more pleasing. What Goldfuss is going to do is basically give you the option to recover frequencies that Goldfuss thinks are pleasing to your ear. And it's making that decision using some algorithm I don't understand. And it also gives the opportunity to tame frequencies that are not pleasing to your ear. And I pretty much always dial this exactly the same, 50%, 15% on recover, maybe 5% on tame. And I'll bring the brightness down a little bit because I like darker songs, but this is almost an imperceptible difference. All of these plugins should feel almost imperceptible, but they should add up together to create a professional sounding mix. So I'm just going to leave this disengaged and then I'll turn it on. You can hear what Goldfuss is doing. Yep, I like that. And then the last thing I'm going to do, we're not going to do mastering today, so we're not going to talk about maximizers and limiters. The last thing I'm going to do on the Mixbus is throw a bus processor on there. API 2500 is by far my favorite bus processor, and the role of this compressor is not to actually compress the song. It's to tuck everything in and glue the song together. So I'm going to be extremely gentle with the compression here. Ratio 1.5 to 3, pretty much never more than that. Very long attack, very fast release. I don't want you to hear the compression, and the gentlest settings on tone. So that's soft for the threshold knee, normal for the thrust detector, and old on tone type. I'm also going to unlink the left and the right, take that down to 70%, and then I'm going to play with the threshold until I'm getting 1 decibel of gain reduction. Things I might do, if it doesn't sound glued in enough, meaning it feels like it's a little too all over the place, I might get a little faster with the attack, a little slower at the release, but generally speaking, it's going to look like this. So let's start with it on, dial it in, then we'll A/B it so you can hear the difference. Okay, I actually like that at a ratio of 2 to 1 and attack at 10 milliseconds. Let's A/B it. Very subtle. It's just bringing the song together and, again, making it sound a little more professional. So that's my base level Mixbus, not even with unfiltered in a lot of cases. Some other things that you could do that I'll just quickly take you through. You could put tape saturation on here. I like this. I do it quite often. I usually put it at the top of the chain, so it's like, a preamp kind of, or like a summing mixer. And this is a plugin that I really like. I like the interface. Sketch Cassette 2 gives you a lot of options here. So you can do a type 1 tape up through type 4, which is going to give you higher fidelity and more top end as you move to the right. You can do cheap, value, standard, or master quality tape, which is impacting the clarity that you're getting. You can even play with how old the tape is. So if you want to do, old school black metal, you might do something like this, like type 1, cheap, and super old. That's not what we're doing today. I'm going to go with type 4 and master. I'm going to make sure this is a new tape. And I'm going to keep the mix kind of wet, dry knob here pretty low. So it's a little mild. This is actually a relatively extreme instance of tape saturation. That's why I have it dialed way low. Let's A/B it. You'll be able to hear that it's, bringing a little of that kind of gooey tape sparkle to the top end and gluing the song together. I'm I'm going to leave that in because I like what it's doing, but let's turn it off and I'll show you the last kind of saturation I might use. I might use some tube saturation. Black box is my go-to. They have a preset called Mixbus 1, and I kind of just leave this where it is with the pentodes, the triodes, and the air, and I'll just play with the saturation knob to taste. So let's do that, dial it in, and then A/B it. I like it there. Here's what it sounds like with no saturation, then I'll turn it on. Just for fun, let's see what it sounds like with tape and black box. Kind of cool. So if you're looking for like a Def Heaven kind of sound, I know that their engineer and producer is always using real world tape. I think you can get close to that if you're using mild tube saturation and mild tape saturation. Gives you a sound like this. But that's pretty much it. I like to be gentle with my Mixbus. I really try not to overdo it. And I like to be adding an incremental couple points of quality with every plugin that I apply to it. So hopefully that's helpful. Mixbus processing was a mystery to me when I first got started, and I definitely went way overboard with the plugins. So hopefully you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made. If you thought this was a good video, please like it. That helps us. Please subscribe if you really liked it. We'll continue to give you more content like this and give you more updates as we get ready to open the new studio. All right, peace.